Welcome to the first review, long awaited, we've had other wheels to review, video review of unboxing and range test of the Begode, in brackets, Gotway EX. And you may have noticed, it has suspension, allegedly. First impressions, it's quite heavy, fairly big, but not a bad shape, looks pretty strong. It's got a trolley handle, which is here, it's like a little blade that comes up if you wanted to push it around. On and off button at the very top, here, embedded, and then you've got a single charge port. A single charge port, and it comes with a 3 amp charger. So you could plug a 5 amp in if you wanted, if you own a Sherman or something like that. And a USB port, so if you want to charge something, that's nice and solid. That goes in there really nicely. You sort of can't really get that wrong, can you? Push it in there. Slightly bigger over the top, so water should run off, theoretically. Not that you should be riding in terrible rain or anything like that. This top part is almost like a little tray, and I cannot see how the water would make its way out of there if you did ride in the rain. In fact, no, it would probably just sit in there. No, it might go down in. It'll probably go down in where the trolley handle is, so that's an interesting one. We'll find out about that, won't we? I should just ride it and see what happens. It's got your foot plates, your traditional ones that come with these wheels. So skateboard tape, grip tape, whatever you want to call it, with the little rubber strips across. When you get super muddy, any grip tape, if you're on a skateboard or whatever, or a scooter, that will get chock-a-block with mud. But it's always been the same for all the years, so just wear the right footwear. Nicely fold up. When I see they fold up, they hit this little intentional logo here to stop it touching the side of the body to protect it, keep it nice and smooth. It does look really nice, I think. I think it's a nice looking wheel, especially this effect around the front light unit here. I think that looks pretty neat. It's like Iron Man's thing he has in his chest, isn't it? Before he gets rid of it because he doesn't need it anymore. And there's the light. There you go. Pretty bright. It's a single bulb. So that's interesting. It's in a single LED. It's not a single LED bulb. Single unit. I'm used to the traditional ones on the M Super Pros, and also on the RS. We got doubles. This is a single one. Interesting. Done away with the light strips, front and back. You may notice compared to the M Super Pro. Well, compared to the MSX, M Super Pro, and RS, they've traditionally had light strips up here. So they've done away with those, which is probably not a bad thing. You know, it's not like you're listing out a feature there, really. Rear light, very pretty, very nice, looks neat, I like it. Interestingly, you've got the voltage readout at the back. It's like the Monster Pro where you can't read the readout at the front when you're stood directly over the top of it looking down. You have to sort of lean back and have a look at it. With this one, they've gone a step further and put it behind you. It's behind you! So you sort of have to ride along and go, oh, yeah, it's all good, that's my voltage. Yeah, strange decision that one, because I think I'd rather have the power and the ports on the back and have this on the front, because I'm not going to be charging it whilst I'm riding it. Yes, or turning it off whilst I'm riding it. I suppose you can't access the front light like that if you're riding along and want to turn the front light on, but that's a one-time operation. Looking at this, you need to look at it loads if you're doing a ride out. I do like the look of it, I must admit. Nice big massive chunky tyre. No mud guard. That is mental. Tyre here, water flies up here, bum here. Equals brown pants. Now, these are optional extras. This is a Monster Pro mud guard that we stock. This is a Gotway RS mudguard, which we stock. Currently 96 units in stock. Guess what? Neither of these fit this wheel. So we all know what that means is we need to get more mudguards in for this bespoke body. A little bit frustrating at this point in time. Please just include a mudguard with your wheels if it needs one. The body doesn't cover that wheel. Who's not realised that at Gotway or Begode? Does not compute. Need it. This is going to be trashed unless I sort something out. And the only sort of way of doing it is to get the Monster Pro one, slot it in here, and it sort of half fits, but really wobbly. See? So then I'll have to get that and then maybe get some gaffer tape, duct tape type stuff, and then stick it all around here, because I'm not going to ride it and get dirty trousers. It's really annoying. I wish I had a mudguard with it. But anyway, I'm going to try and make that fit somehow. I really don't want to wreck this, because the dirt gets up in here and it sits all along these ledges here and things like that in previous experiments I've done with the Gotway stuff. And it'd be all over here, it'd be everywhere, it all need cleaning out, and then it'd get inside the trolley handle, and it'd be all gritty. It needs a mudguard, Simple. But there we are, it doesn't come with them, tough luck, there we go. And that's my first moan out of the way. Let's have a little look at the suspension, shall we? So, I mean, it is quite heavy, this wheel, to be fair. Made heavier by the suspension unit. Wow, very pretty. I can see it's got a little washer in here, which is going to try and keep that shaft nice and clean, but we'll see how that goes. Interesting, completely different style of suspension to what the others are doing. So it's different from Emotion, different from Kingsong. Kind of half think that is very close to that motor unit there. So if you are really clumsy with riding your wheels and you keep falling off and crashing or hitting curbs, that there is probably curb height. So if you're not a very good rider, you might bend this. Possibly, that's super close. Super close. And of course, if there's any bend on this, if it's actually possible to bend it, it's not going to compress properly because it will be out of balance, so it won't be able to compress. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting one. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to bend it. I say that now, so it's likely that I will. That's why I've said it. What's this tyre then? It is 2.75 14 20 by 2.75, made by Kenda. Super chunky, that is really, really chunky. It's got a dot standard on it. There we go. That'll be good off-road. Nice tyre, most likely good on-road as well. Here is the pump, which you use to inflate the suspension. Now, Mario has inflated to 8 megapascals, which I'd never heard of either. So join the club, which turns out it's just short of 1200 psi. It's like 1167 or something psi, pounds per square inch. We're pretty familiar with, to be honest. Megapascals, not really dealt with that. Yeah, so you've got a little gauge on there, you inflate it. Now that is a huge amount of pressure, by the way. If you're not sure on your PSIs, your car tyre, typical car tyre, average car tyre, 32 PSI. This is inflated to almost 1200 PSI. Being involved in the paintball industry, 1200 is not actually a lot. We deal with the lower end tanks, 3000 PSI, with the uppers being 4500. But even so, they are bespoke tanks made by professional companies that specialise in high pressure air systems, HPA systems. Gotway design electric unicycles, and we're putting high pressure air into this machine, essentially into these struts here. So that'll be an interesting one. It doesn't fill me with confidence because I kind of like this area of myself, and if something went wrong with that, I'm pretty sure it's going to go one way because it's not going to plummet into the ground. It's kind of going to go up, isn't it? Probably worrying about nothing. We will find out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to charge this fully, and then I'm going to go out and do a range test on it and give some feedback on what it feels like. And that's what this video review is all about. So that's the overview. I was trying to comment on other things I can actually see that are slightly different. It does look pretty tough. Probably should have, yet again, probably should have some cheap pads on here. Super Boost pads on our website if you want to go and find them. It's not a smooth surface to put them on, so that'll be fun. But I'm not going to put them on there. I always ride things out the box. There's an argument to be said you should fit those on there, fit a mudguard on it, etc. Then yeah, I'm definitely going to fit a mudguard on this somehow. I don't know how. Or only ride it on dry days. Perhaps I should do that. But I'm not going to be fitting side pads on it. It comes like this. They should include them, really. I don't want to spend further money, or you guys might not want to spend further money doing things to the thing. So this is going to be out of the box test, and we'll see how it goes. Oh, by the way, this is 3,500 watts of power in this motor. That is mental. 3,500 watt motor. Man, oh man. I mean, years ago, like the Ninebot started at 350 watts and they got really powerful at 500. 3,500. Wow. What other specs do you think we find in this manual? Well, interestingly, in the manual that comes with it, you can find the specs of all their wheels. Because the first page isn't related to this wheel, it's to the M10. Then to the MCM5, then to the Tesla, then to the Nikola, then to the RS, then to the Monster, and then the EX. Let's have a little look, shall we? So the rough weight, because they can't be bothered to measure it properly, 43 kilograms. Net weight, 38 kilograms. Safe cruising speed, 25 kilometers an hour. I think they've lowballed that one. They mean safe as in if you come off, you're not going to lose your jaw, most likely. The no load speed, so just picking it up and doing a spin test, is 86 kilometers an hour. That is mental. Cruising range, which is always wrong by the way, 150 to 230 kilometers. Yeah, that's a 70 kilogram rider at 20 kilometers an hour. I am not going to be getting 150 to 230 kilometers, I can guarantee you that. Max climbing 25 degrees in real test with a 90 kilogram rider, so that seems more reasonable. Max load 130 kilograms, and that's just really for a warranty side of things, I think. That's why they tend to go that. I think you'll carry a heck of a lot more at that with a 3,500 watt motor. It's a hollow motor. Batteries are 2,700 watt hours at 100 volts. So good battery set in this. It's got LG M50T 21700s. And it's also got /Samsung 50G 21700s. Take your pick. Which do you want it to be? Charger 100 volt 3 amp and charging duration 9 hours, and that's obviously 9 hours from flat. You should never really have it flat, otherwise you'll ride into the tilt back rope basically. The USB, if you want to charge your phone, is a 2 amp output, so it's got 20 amp short circuit protection. Headlights is 100 to 6,000 lumen. I think you'll find what it does is when you're bombing along and it's on, it's full beam. When you stop about a second or two after, it dims down. Bump absorber is an air spring suspension. Anti-spin function, the motor will stop when you hold the handle and lift the wheel. That's what that beep is. So there's a little button underneath. Bluetooth speakers, yeah, there we go. You know everything you need to know now. I'm off, I'm going to charge it up and go for a ride. Oh, I should just drop it off the table because it's got suspension. So you're not going to damage it. See you later.
Tally ho!
Still going. What a beautiful, beautiful morning. Amazing. So road being closed. This one actually is properly closed. It's over a bridge. Properly closed, can't get around, so I've walked right around here, climbed up onto this, going on top of this wall that they're repairing, and jumped down there. But look at that, properly closed. But with something like this, you can do it. Go through, have a look at this. You don't get an opportunity much to see this really, really old road underneath here. Here is a classic example of why suspension can be helpful. It's not always required, but it can be quite nice. And it does depend on the tyre that's fitted to the wheel and your air pressure. But here is a very unsuspecting trail.
how I can show you this is going to be quite difficult. You have to trust me on it. These are sort of hidden. And what you've got is you've got one here, and it's really difficult to film, but you've got one there under the soil. And then you've got another one under the soil, and then another one. And if you come up here at any speed, especially if it's dusky, because I've done this, and even knowing they're here, sometimes they take you by surprise. You come in, you fly in, and you hit like 4 in a row. This can take the whip out of it. So that's one little example where this, having a little bit of movement in there, just takes enough out. It's not the be all end all suspension by any means. In a situation like that, it's helpful. So that's me a lot. It's tilting me right back and stopping me from riding. It's showing 79.9, jumping between that and that. Almost can't ride it anymore. It's that close. Flattens out a little bit when I get off it for a sec. So I got a bit more in it, look. But then it starts to tilt me back again. What's it reading? Yeah, so still it's about 79.9 it's tilted me back at. There's still something there though, as in it'll level out again. You can get back on it again, do a little spurt, and then it tilts you back again.
I've just got back from the range test, not just, but a few hours ago. And I got a grand total of, I'll tell you in a minute, you have to watch on a little bit more to see what I got out of it. I want to talk about this machine. I was pleasantly surprised, I have to say. I was not expecting good things from this wheel. The chatter online dishes it and says, me, 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 like that. A bit like that. Some valid things, some not. You get it online, don't you? You really got to get your hands on these things and try them yourself to try and work out and evaluate, and then bench that mark against it, against your experience that you've had so far on the plethora of wheels you may have ridden. If you've only ever ridden one other wheel, you haven't really got a lot to go by. Ridden so many wheels now. I wasn't actually expecting, just by looking at it, a great ride. But I'm really pleasantly surprised because it was a really, really nice ride. I enjoyed it. I actually got it and enjoyed it. It's got a little bit of what that Monster Pro has that I talked about. Go and watch the Monster Pro unboxing and range test video if you haven't already. Go and have a little look at that. But when you accelerate or brake, and I'm talking the braking here, is it kind of almost gets thrown off the back. Partly because of the weight, size of the foot plates, height of the wheel, loads of different metrics involved. So you probably want to be putting pads on these. I didn't even stick on the little thin slivers of pads they have. Pads, that adds a bit more of a grippy surface to it, so that would make a difference. I didn't stick those on there, I left it. Now that is in the box, so you can use those, it comes with it. It's not like an additional purchase or anything like that. I just prefer the look of it like this. That's my only real negative comment. Found with the suspension, actually I really like a rigid machine riding it, because you always know where it is in every environment, whether you go into a camber, you hit some ruts or whatever. You know where that machine is. It's not constantly moving underneath you. I quite like that rigidity. And this, oddly, offers kind of both those worlds. So the suspension, we put it at 1200 PSI, I think, approximately. It, for my rider weight, it's basically hardly any suspension when you're riding along. It isn't constantly moving up and down. It's like the InMotion V11, lovely suspension to ride on the road. You can sort of feel it, taking all those little shocks as you go and the undulations. This is a lot more rigid at that PSI. Now for my weight, you do need that PSI to be able to hold it. So you do need to set, you can't just lower it, because otherwise you're going to always bottoming out on the bigger stuff. With it set like this, it was really nice. It was quite solid all the way, but when I was hitting stuff that I hadn't seen or had seen and purposely went for to see how it would react, it gave a bit of give in it. So it shot up, you can feel it compressing, and it took the kick out of it. It was really, really good. That side of it really surprised me, thinking, flip, this is like, when I first get on it, I was just quite rigid. To really properly jump up and down to get the thing to move. Whereas the KSS 18 and the V11, you just do that on it, you can feel it moving. This, a lot more rigid at 1200 PSI. Wasn't sure how that would work out. I really like this, the setup of the suspension. Strange, hey? But so it is. Front light, single headlight unit, really, really bright. No issues with that whatsoever. Rear light looks really, really nice. Rear readout, bit odd that you have to kind of stop and have a look around to see what it is or use the app. So that's a bit strange. With the low battery warning, I was getting, I think, at 10% that it was kicking in. So you kind of don't have to look in terms of low battery. And I think with the range I got, I could have probably eked out another couple of miles, maybe 2 miles more. I would say a mile to 2 miles more. But I stopped these tests now, one, because the batteries are so large that you go so far. I stop them when it becomes, I call it when you get to the fun barrier. So you can gun it around, you can whip all over the place, and there's no restrictions. Once it starts tilting you right back at sort of 10 miles an hour, you're going, right, yeah, I can't actually ride this normally anymore. It's in such a limp mode that the fun's all gone out of this, and it's hurting my legs because I'm being constantly tilted back, basically. Your toes are pointing into the sky because it's so far tilt back. At that point I go, right, okay, you could actually carry on in an emergency. Obviously you wouldn't want to carry this thing, way too heavy. You could use a trolley handle with it on and push it along, but if I was in an emergency, I'd keep turning it off, turning it on, which you shouldn't do, and keep trying to eke a bit more out of it. And it was giving little bits more every time I stopped, wait for it to level itself again, jump back on and went, the battery recovered slightly, go 50 meters, it starts tilting right back again, jump back on it, and you could keep doing that to get to where you want to go, but that's not really riding, is it? So the figure I got was 40 miles, just over, by smidgen, slightly over 40 miles on this. So that's going to be pretty much your worst case scenario, unless you're heavier than me and you unlock it to its full speed, which definitely do not recommend. It's not something we test is the top speed of machines anymore because it's got so silly. I'm not going to endanger myself doing it. And I ride it, basically I ride them all at the same speed. So yeah, so I think that range test, essentially, I was probably doing about 28, 29, that sort of figure. Most of that journey, so probably 60%-ish at that sort of speed. A few of the little journeys are in between, so I didn't do it in one stretch. Some of them were taking Bruce out, and so he runs at probably about average about 12 or 13 miles an hour for a couple of miles I take him for his little route. So there's probably about 5 miles, 6 miles of running him within that mix. So mixed riding, but ultimately most of that's been pushed. So you should get more miles than me unless you're a heavier rider. The feel of the thing is brilliant. Say apart from what I mentioned about the braking, just need to be a bit steady on that. You want to be braking early rather than later and trying to do emergency brakes, or solve that issue entirely by having the Super Boost pads available on speedyfeet.co.uk. Type in Super Boost on the Speedy Feet website, you'll see them. They pop up. You can stick them on the side, or manufacture your own ones, make them at home. Everything else is spot on. So the acceleration is really nice, delivery of power is really, really nice. The road noise is quiet, the motor is quiet. I've had no grinding on the motor yet. We will see as we go up through whether the motor becomes an issue. It hasn't caught fire or anything like that, obviously, quite obviously. We will see how we get on over the next 1,000 kilometers essentially. But no mudguard. Slightly annoying. And one thing I did notice is these side panels here which come off with the batteries underneath, they're actually recessed in, so if rain hits it, it should roll off and not actually go in. So it seems quite well designed. This cover here sits in a basin. We've talked about these before on other models. They've started putting them in like a basin that could fill with water. But this actually, with this here, it actually has got a lip over the top of that, so as long as this is on, the water shouldn't get in. It's quite a nice tight fitting, and it's bigger than the gap below it anyway, so from that point of view it shouldn't. Now Begode's take on this, when we wrote to them, is they said they don't recommend you ride these in the rain, which is like most manufacturers. Very few manufacturers that will say, oh yeah, happily ride them in terrible downpours. So from that point of view, I haven't been going out in great storms, but we haven't really had any either. So it's predominantly wet roads, dry weather I've been riding in really cold conditions. So winter is not going to help the range either. But I've been doing that because I don't want to get mud all over me because I don't include a flipping mud guard. So foot plates, really good, no issues whatsoever. We've got to know these foot plates by now. Seem to work well all year round. Tyre, as I say, nice and grippy in the off-road. With the suspension model, just slightly higher up, so it does play about with your leverage when you're leaning into things. The higher models with suspension have got more of a tendency to try and kick you out because you're a lot higher up. Your centre of gravity is not so low. But otherwise, everything has been working perfectly. And it's only a short test, so I've done 40 miles on it with no issue so far. I'm going to report back at 250 kilometres, 650 kilometres, then 1,000 kilometres. And just report back if anything goes wrong. I quite like the fact that it's got none of the fancy LEDs. Front light, rear light, power button. And as you can see in here, you've got the charge port and a USB port, which you can put a 5 amp onto this, but it comes with a 3 amp. So charge it with a 3 amp, 2,700 watt hours, so it's a big old battery pack. Lift button, that works as long as you hold it dead center. So you actually got to click in a dead center here. If you get it on the side slightly, not so much. I was carrying up the steps sort of and it slipped forward and then the motor spun up. I was like, okay, got to carry it with a full hand underneath rather than a few fingers and actually grab it around the middle, and then it works all right. I'll keep pushing forward on it, keep doing the range, try and kick out as much range as I can. Now the weather is starting to improve slowly, so hopefully I'll be back with a 250 review in no time at all, 650 and 1,000. I'm really hoping so. I'm gonna put the mileage in, but I'm actually enjoying riding this, genuinely look forward to getting on it and whipping it through the woods. So I'll keep pushing forward and report back. Go to electricpeople.org and sign up if you haven't already. There's a groups on that site. And you can go through and have a little look. You've got for sale, etc. So second-hand machines, or you can list yours there completely for free, and you can private message people and do business on there if you want. You've also got Instagram and obviously this YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. A lot of our viewers aren't subscribed, so they don't get notified. So you need to subscribe, hit the bell notification, and push that forward. And comment. Got any questions or anything like that? Just comment below. I'll try and get round to reviewing them and answering them for you. And until next time, so far, this is a thumbs up from me, and I'll keep reporting back, but loving it so far. And I'll see you on the 250.